anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes, to our favorite shows.
Oh my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Fierce and Blurnsball.
Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Rattlegion Broadcasting premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Rattlegion. Tonight, our favorite show is NXT Takeover in your house. Brought to you by the good people at the WWE NXT and Full Sail University. Joining me this evening to break down this takeover event, ladies and gentlemen, from the Super Blog Team Up and whatever other podcast or blog he chooses. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey. How do you do?
I have arrived here in Shotzi Blackheart's tank. It's a little bit more ill-fitting than when Miss Shotzi sits in it, but I got here nonetheless.
So I feel like that's the exact same tank you can buy for a toddler to drive around in. No shit. You know how, like, you have kids and you buy them, like, the little ride-along things, like Batman's car or a three-wheeler or something like that? Yeah, there's an actual tank of one of those things. I'm pretty sure, like, somebody just went down to the Toys R Us when that was a thing and bought Shotzi a tank. They're like, here, this is for toddlers. Sit in it. Sit in it.
It works.
Get your tiny ass in that tank. I'm a full-grown woman. Shut up.
It doesn't have the same appeal when it's a hairy-ass man driving it, though.
Yes, it loses points on sex appeal. But here to who's got all the sex appeal that the ladies love, ladies and gentlemen, from Chris's on Infinite Earths, Weird Comics History, blogging into the void, and 900 other projects he's involved in, the second hardest working man in podcast and blogs. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Chris Sheehan. How do you do, sir?
Hey, you could just call me LL Chris J. Ladies love me, so yes.
Oh, eat Cool J cookies. He's bad.
Hanging in there this morning, we're enjoying we get this weird lull in Arizona where, like, for 1 week in June, it stops being 110 degrees and it goes down to, like, the mid-80s, and we're currently enjoying that. It's a very weird thing, but it's definitely welcome, and that's where we're at.
Well, it's summer here in Florida, which means if you blink, it'll be 100 degrees out, and then when you blink again, it's tornadoes and storming, and when you blink a third time, the sun is out, but it's raining. It's very schizophrenic here in the summertime in Florida.
It sounds preferable to what we got.
Can you guys stop getting the COVID down there so we can actually make a trip from Canada?
Listen, I try to
Well, it dies in the heat, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, we're trying.
We're opening things up here in Florida, man. I mean, did you hear? I think Triple H said that they were going to start letting audiences back into NXT. You know, not just
up to 50% capacity, right?
Yeah. The parks are opening. We actually have a trip planned. We're going to stay at one of the non-park related Orlando resorts the second week of July. And the water park will be open, we asked. Before I put down money, I was like, let's make sure shit's working.
They've got the freezer truck parked in the back just in case.
So come on down. Florida is halfway open. Listen, I got a coworker who was like, I don't give a shit or a fuck about anything else. The bars are finally open. I'm going to get tore up from the neck up. And I was like, all right, just be at work the next day. That's all I'm asking. All right, speaking of work, let's get her done here. This was the Takeover special. Who knows where this might have been in the world had the world not ended in March, but they decided that to continue with the Takeover line, the next one is SummerSlam weekend, and allegedly that's in Boston, but Boston may still be under quarantine, so who knows? Maybe it'll be in Jacksonville. We don't know. In the meantime, to make it fun and exciting and visually appealing for the people at home, they went with the in-your-house motif. Can we just take a minute and talk about that? Chris Bailey,
Sure.
do you remember the 1995 series of In Your House pay-per-views, which mostly featured Diesel, Sid, and Mabel?
I certainly do, sir. I spent a lot of my university student loan purchasing these particular pay-per-views, so I am very, very quite aware of their... I've seen every one of them. I love the idea. I love the theme. It used to be, a departure from the original pay-per-views, which was just a 2-hour format, easily digestible, basically almost half the price. Win-win all the way around the board. And you always got at least 1 to 2 standout matches on that thing. I mean, you had Shawn Michaels and Jeff Jarrett, which stands out to me, and a whole lot of Mabel. So, I mean, you know what? There was a whole lot of fun to be had. I loved the set, the concept, the whole 9 yards. It was cool. And I was glad to see it back. It really added to what was a dying TakeOver format.
When did they stop giving away the house?
They only did that the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, that died really quickly.
Yeah, it was just the first time out. Yeah.
Same with it was like McMahon's Millions. They had to blow them up in a limousine to make people forget about it.
I know they did it in 95. 95 was the first year, and they went strong with it. 96, I actually remember a lot of the 96 ones, because there were some good pay-per-views that year. I mean, that was the Shawn Michaels run, and I know everyone's like, oh, he wasn't a draw, but, it's hard to draw when you're starting off with such a negative. And then, 94 and 95 damn near sunk the company. So 96 was a recovery year. 97, they were still trying to figure shit out. That was the transition year into the Attitude Era, and then 98 starts the Austin Era. So I don't tend to go a little crazy and put a lot of blame on Michaels for 96. I think timing is everything, but I remember, I want to get your opinion on this, Mr. Sheehan. 96, do you remember the In Your House series from that year? What'd you think of them for the most part?
I thought for the most part they were pretty great. I just feel like Shawn got the shitty end of the stick there, pitted up against the NWO over on the other channel. We had the Good Friends, Better Enemies with Shawn and Diesel, which was an awesome match to send him down south.
Yes,
we had
that's
the
when
Mind Games.
They took Vachon's leg and beat...
Yeah, Mad Dog's leg. Yeah, and the prosthetic.
That was classic.
We had
Don't forget
Mind
Bulldog
Games.
Bret Hart.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was December of 95. That was an international
okay.
incident. Then we had the Buried Alive match, which, was a cluster, but it was a spectacle. But just a whole lot of great underrated events. And like you said, you have these standout matches in there that really don't get a whole lot of play. I remember being blown away by an Al Snow Too Cold Scorpio match that wasn't announced. It was just thrown on the show, and it was fantastic. That was the kind of show you'd get from an In Your House. You would it wouldn't always be something methodically booked in advance and advertised as you're getting these 5 matches. You might get something interesting and silly in there. It was just a good time. I think was Bad Blood was that 96 or 97?
That was 97.
That was October 97. That was the day Pillman passed. Yeah. So it was just a heck of a good run for the In Your House. It's a very good bridge from the Dead era to the Attitude Era.
Yeah, I enjoyed the series. Let's see if I can test my memory. Starting with April, you're right, Good Friends, Better Enemies, which was Shawn and Diesel. Then he fucks off, along with Razor.
Yes, we had Razor and Vader that show too, which was interesting.
And then May was Beware of Dog, which was the 2-month arc of Shawn and Bulldog fighting over Bulldog's wife or whatever. That ends with King of the Ring.
That was so good.
July of that
Both
year,
nights
was another...
The Black Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say July of that year was the 6th man that Warrior was supposed to be in, but he had a hangnail, so they got Sid.
Yeah.
So there was that, and that was fine. The 96 SummerSlam was Shawn and Vader, which ruined Vader's career, and then he never quite recovered.
It's true.
Is that the one where he rolled out of the ring and he called himself a fat fuck or something?
that was
much
in
later.
'98. Yeah.
Oh man, that was brutal.
I'm just a
nothing
fat
but a
bastard.
fat piece of shit. Yeah.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Yep. No,
So good.
that was the one where he stepped on Sean's hair and Sean's vagina got
Flipped
torn.
out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 You ever hear Cornette talk
Poor
about
baby.
that? Like,
Oh
No.
yeah. The tissy fit. Yeah.
yeah. Like, because Vader, I guess, I don't think Vader was ever unsafe. He's not Nia Jax, but I think Vader works stiff.
Sure.
Somewhere Kyrie Sane is holding her head.
Kyrie Sane has post-traumatic stress disorder because of Nia Jax now. Yeah, but I remember that was the one. Like, if you ever hear Cornette talk about it, like that was supposed to be the beginning of Vader's big push. Vader was supposed to win the title at Survivor Series in New York, and then it was supposed to be the December pay-per-view was always like named after somebody.
It was
like,
its time. Yeah.
yeah, that was the Vader pay-per-view. The following year it would be the DX pay-per-view, and then they would finally stop doing that. But I remember, but because him and Sean got off so badly, and Sean threw a hissy fit, and Sean was probably banging Vince McMahon, or vice versa.
Blowing.
Yeah, sure. Either way, I mean, I'm not here to kink shame. Whoever's fault it was Vader's fault, and so Vader got depushed, and Sid took his place in that arc. Anyway, so then September, I want to say, was Mind Games, which is like everyone's favorite Shawn Michaels match of that year, because that's Shawn Mankind in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Which
Yeah,
gets
incredible.
That gets a lot of people's like favorite match of that time period. Buried Alive was Mankind and Undertaker the following year, where the entire locker room fucking buried Mick Foley. and then it was I want to say Sid and Brett in December. So so the In Your House series had a lot of really fun main events, a lot of fun cards. The set was a little goofy looking, but that was the WWE at the time. So it was fun to see them bring this back. And we start off with the 6-woman tag. The faces are Maya Yim, Shotzi Blackheart and her tank, and Hotsy Totsy Tegan Knox versus the Poison Pixie, Candice LeRae.
I didn't know they sold fake wings at the dollar store now, so I guess we got that.
She went to the Dollar General, where there's stuff also outside of $1 as well. So the wings fall into that category.
They might have been $3, yeah.
The Heartbreak Gal, Dakota Kai, and her heavy, Big Mommy Cool, Raquel Gonzalez. You don't know if you saw what
Exactly.
I did there.
Oh, yeah. Well done, and exactly right.
This was perpetual motion. This was just shy of 10 minutes. I loved this match. I thought the girls, there were no major botches that I can see. Nobody looked clunky. I thought they told a good story with the communication breakdown on the heel side. Candice LeRae and Maya Yim fucked off towards the end, continuing their feud. I'm sure her and Gargano and her and Keith Lee will be doing a mixed tag at some point in the future. I love this match. I thought it was great. I thought all the girls pulled it off. This was the right combination of gals to tell this story for this match. And I know not every gals match is smooth, but I really didn't see any problems with this one. Unless you're really a nitpick, I thought they pulled it off really, really well. What did you think, Sheehan?
Just like you, I thought this was a really good match, a really hot way to start the show. I didn't really see any missteps. I think Raquel is like a little bit clumsy. I just don't think she's got enough time. I think she'll be fine once she gets a little bit more time, but I didn't see her do anything egregious or anything. I did like that Dakota had her hair colored to show a little shine to old Hana Kimura. I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and anytime I see Maya Yim, I get like a hankering to play Saints Row. It's every time I see her, it's like, wow, I should really fire up Saints Row 3 again. But I thought they had a really good match to open it up. I liked how she and Dollar Store Candice broke away because they were kind of just added to this feud. It feels like at the last minute, where this really was what's her face, Tegan and Dakota's story. So really liked it. Thought it ended the right way, and yeah, really no complaints.
Go ahead, Bailey.
So, Shotzi Blackheart coming out in the tank. I got to give that girl credit. I do enjoy that particular little gimmick. And somebody actually taught Shotzi how to wrestle. This is the first time where she didn't clunk her way through an entire match. I got to be quite honest with you. You got Mia Yim there, who, is hit or miss in my opinion, but she was definitely serviceable here. I love the pairing of Dakota Kai and Gonzalez. I mean, I just love that. And I mean, they got the shitty end of the stick because they were teamed up with poor old Dollar Store herself, Mrs. Candice LeRae, trying her new poison gimmick. Like, I don't know. But guess what?
She eats first.
Fair enough. I tell you what, it was a very entertaining match. Like you said, very, very low amount of blown spots. It was really, really solid. They gave Tegan Nox the win, finally. After, is this feud over, just beginning? What's happening here? This seems to have been going on forever, but I like it. I like every single encounter that they've had so far. So Tegan Nox getting the win, which she definitely needed because she was starting to chill off. She was starting to get a little bit cold as ice and lacked a bit of direction. So this actually paid off. So I have nothing bad to say about this one. Nox, Yim, and Blackheart for the win in just under 10 minutes. So I thought it was great.
Here's my guess.
This feud's been going on for 8 months now, huh?
Yeah.
It's since War Games, right? It's a long time for a feud.
This is Cena Orton.
Which time? Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
I think they have to have a one-on-one blow-off match. I think they'll do a 2 out of 3 falls. Maybe put Raquel Gonzalez in a shark cage or something. But I feel like Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai need to go one more time, SummerSlam weekend, and then that's gotta be it. Figure we'll get to Io Shirai in a little bit, but Io Shirai is the new NXT Women's Champion. She needs fresh heels.
Spoiler.
Okay. She needs fresh heels. So Dakota Kai works there. You've also got Candice LeRae, but Candice LeRae is probably going to be spending the summer feuding with Mia Yim. So,
yuck.
And they just called up Chelsea Green because nobody has any fucking patience or sense in the WWE. So I mean, who's left? Who do you put with Io Shirai that can really give her a run? I can't see it being anybody other than Dakota Kai at this point, but she's got to finish up with Tegan Nox first. So
Mark, they literally have a ready-made audience. You just got to pull back the plexiglass, and you got a whole list of wrestlers to join that roster.
You got to build them up, though, Bailey. You got to build them up. All right.
Fair enough.
I have a question. I'm going to start with Miss Sheehan. I respect you, Booker man. You're a bright guy. I listen to your podcast. I just listened to your Leonard the Duck show. You're a man who knows research. You know your details. You're a smart man. I need you to sit me down at the learning tree and explain to me what the fuck is Damian Priest's gimmick. I don't understand him.
Can we talk a little bit about Todd Pettengill instead? I really enjoyed seeing Todd. I thought that was great. Todd is one of my favorites.
Hey, wait a second. How about the fake Lord Alfred Hayes, which did the promotional consideration
Regal?
paid for
Regal,
by the following?
Promotional consideration paid for. Oh yeah. No, that's awesome. One thing that was, sadly, it was my favorite part of the show was all the callbacks, like the Doc Hendricks picture next to the thermostat at 69 degrees. I mean, shit, that's funny stuff. But Damian Priest, yes, he's a Midtown Manhattan archer. He hunts the streets of New York during the night. He is also incredibly rat-faced and homely. And feels like he should be about 5'8", 5'9", but is actually 8'3". He's very, very gangly. I don't know where he finds clothes that fit. And yeah, that's about it. That's all that's all he is, right? He's got odd teeth as well.
Bailey, when he was Punishment Martinez, did he have a gimmick or just a cool name?
No, just a cool name. That was literally it. Same deal. You know what he looks like? What he reminds me of? He looks like the stripper that a girl would hire on Valentine's Day during a bachelorette party, who probably got like a 25% discount off of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't understand what a Damian Priest is. I don't understand why he has an invisible bow and arrow. I guess when he was Punishment Martinez, he was one of the indie darlings. What did he come from? Ring of Honor? Is that his deal?
Yeah, his last stint before this was Ring of Honor. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So this is always like the next. This is where everyone from Ring of Honor goes. Apparently, is NXT if they don't go to AEW.
I was going to say you're always an indie darling unless you go to NXT, because if they tweet out something that says Punishment Martinez is all elite, then you still love the guy.
Sure.
But if they go to NXT, it's like, screw this dude. He's a piece of garbage. We never liked him in the first place.
Fucking sell out.
Yeah.
He's all elite. Well done, Sheehan.
Well, Damian Priest, in his lack of a gimmick, took on Finn Balor, who also has become just a guy. I mean, I'm sure. I think Bailey has risen to the defense of Finn Balor since he turned heel, except that he's not really a heel in this feud. So the whole thing with Finn Balor was, like, on the indie scene, he would do cosplay, and the cosplay was a lot of fun. They turned the cosplay into this sort of, like, alternate personality where it was the demon, and that was a lot of fun. And then Bray Wyatt broke his neck. And he came back, and and he started like callbacks to Prince Devitt, which if you watch New Japan you saw. But other than that, you don't really know what a Prince Devitt is or what that means. And so what I'm trying to say is that Finn Balor versus Damian Priest might have been a fine wrestling match, but if it could have been Joe Schmo versus, Mike and Ike, and it would have been the same match. There was no gimmick here. There was no color to this. There was no oomph, no fourth dimension. Just two dudes having a wrestling match, and I happen to know what their names are because they get a lot of TV time. But other than that, this was a giant nothing burger. I mean, and in the defense of it being a nothing burger, a fine enough match. Poor Damian Priest back. He took that bump onto the stairs, and I screamed like a girl. Hard. My wife came to see if
that was horrible.
My wife came to see if I had coughed myself unconscious again and fallen on my face a second time. True story. Legit was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I am," but poor old Punishment Martinez ain't. So I'll pitch it over to you, Mr. Bailey. I'll start with you this time. Tell me, am I wrong here, or was this not a nothing burger with a giant spot at the end?
The only thing, that spot at the end, I thought they were actually going to do the Razor's Edge on the, when he had Balor
and just murder Balor.
Yeah.
Just
I
bump him
thought
right
he
on
was
his
going to
head.
take the bump, which would have been cool. It would have got Mr. Priest over, but of course they didn't, and he took that hideous bump on the outside, which was horrible. But you know what? I thought overall it was a hard-hitting match. It was a whole lot of nothing, of course. You notice that, take a look at that match if you ever want to watch it again, and I don't know why you would. But they sort of took some breaks out of, Balor's normal rhythm and routine of his match that he has every single week. I mean, it feels like the same match, Sling Blade into the coup de grace, you know what I mean? Same. So it took a little bit of a different pace on this one. However, one thing I did like about it was right at the very end of the match. So Balor has him in the corner, and he sort of stands in front of him in that little awkward pose, and he does his double pistols at him, you know what I mean, a.k.a. the Bullet Club. But they cut it off just before you get to see Damian Priest, who raises a double pistols. Now, if you watched any of the Japan wrestling, when someone did that, that was a show of respect and meant that, hey, this guy is Bullet Club. So I think they cut something off a little bit too early. Was it this to gain respect and to, pair up, and these guys are going to be part of a new faction? I think we got something going on here.
I think Priest was raising his bow and arrow. when they put it up. I'm serious. No joke. I think he was pulling back on his invisible bow when Finn had the gun shot. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Was he fighting invisible orcs?
I think they were fighting invisible each other. I think this was a very strange shootout. They're gonna get on the astral plane and start fighting among the pink clouds and stuff that Professor X would give you. But I thought that this match, I thought it was a pretty good match. This is one of those things where it feels like they're trying to rebuild Finn, but at the same time they're trying to build Priest. So it's like, why would you have a match where really neither guy should lose? Like, if you're building two different guys here, you probably shouldn't put them together and make one of them win decisively. I don't get the...
That's why I thought it was the show for respect win, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it very well might have been. I mean, guns and bows they're both projectile weapons. I guess it's he could be part of a brand. He could be the Arrow Club or something. I don't know.
Yes.
But he could be in the Quiver Club. But I thought the spots were great. I can't remember the last time I gave half a shit about Finn Balor. I feel like he's the result of too much too soon. I mean, they brought him up to the main roster. They gave him the main belt like in his first pay-per-view. Where do you go from there? The only way you can go is down. And by some damn luck, he hurt himself on that buckle bomb, or got hurt by that buckle bomb, and I don't think he's recovered since then. I feel like he's in one of those Bray Wyatt cycles of push, de-push, where they build him up to the point where he's credible and to the point where someone beating him means something, but it doesn't do anything.
You call that
the
Johnny Gargano in NXT.
It could very well be, yeah. But I just I don't see where they're going. It just feels like you said, a nothing burger here.
So I'm going to say something controversial here, given the geopolitical, sociopolitical climate we are currently living in. And it's my show, and I'm just going to say it. Keith Lee sucks. Okay?
Oh, no. How dare you, sir?
Cold.
He matters.
He does matter. And what also matters is that he's a terrible wrestler. No. Keith Lee wrestles like if Randy Orton were fat and out of shape. Like, I'm watching him and Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano has legs the size of my daughter's legs, by the way. He's a skinny motherfucker. But that's okay, because Johnny Gargano...
It's an upper body business. It's an upper body business, Mark.
I understand. Johnny Gargano is a plucky little underdog. Why he's currently a bad guy, I have no earthly idea. But Johnny Gargano is the plucky underdog fighting from underneath and occasionally getting a victory is works for his body type and his wrestling style. And Keith Lee should be a big fat monster. I don't mind monsters occasionally getting off their feet. We talked about Vader earlier. There are big guys that can be light on their feet and occasionally do something aerial or, really athletic. But they always had an imposing way about them. Keith Lee's just a big fatty who's as boring and as... His style is as methodical and as slow and as uninteresting and non-dynamic as Randy Orton's. Only he's a big fatty, so he's even slower. I fucking hated this match. I'm realizing I just hate Keith Lee. Because he's another one. Like, when I first saw him and he was like, bask in my glory. I'm a big fatty. I'm with you, sir. Now it's like, now he comes out and like, I'm limitless. Your pants waist may be limitless, but you have limits, sir. They just threw all their weight behind him, and he's not ready. And I know he came from like PWG, and he was another indie darling, but I don't know who's agenting his matches or who's working with him, but he sucks. And so you have an uninteresting big fatty not doing anything of any interest, and not using his weight, not imposing his will, not wrestling like a big man. He's just a dude, and he's wrestling the plucky underdog, except that we're supposed to be rooting against the plucky underdog because he's currently being a douche. This match logically made no sense. It went way too fucking long. This was 20 minutes and 35 seconds, and that's 20 minutes I want back. This was easily, for me, the worst match of the night. Am I wrong here, Christine? Am I being a little too hard on the Beaver?
I'll agree with you on one thing. I thought this match went too long.
Okay.
I really like Keith Lee. I like Gargano as a heel because, I mean, Gargano has what in the biz we would call a punchable face.
Sure.
I mean, when he's the plucky underdog good guy, it's like you still look at his face and it's like, I kind of want to flick him in the nose. You look at him. Ugh. He's another rat-faced guy. But I like Keith Lee. I do like that he is light on his feet at times. I like that he can be slow and plodding because big guys can be. I think that this match might have showed Johnny as a little bit too in control, which I suppose you could play off just with his experience and tenure. But I think if they are building Keith Lee for anything bigger, you have to have matches sort of like this where you could show how Keith Lee can sell to a smaller guy. Because up to this point, he's fighting Dijakovic 6,000 times. That was like his only match.
Yeah,
it was Dijakovic over and over again.
Him and Damian Priest. That went on forever.
And Damian Priest, yeah, he would pop in from time to time too. But it's like I think showing him feeding off of a little guy shows another side to him. I don't know. I just really like him. I like his charisma. It's funny. I went to an NXT show before the world fell apart, and the match was Damian Priest versus Keith Lee, and between the two of them, they showed so much personality. And so little of that actually comes through on the TV, which is unfortunate. I liked Keith Lee more before the whole Limitless thing, where he would speak like Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction, just like as though he is pontificating like a biblical verse. I remember him beating up the Undisputed Era, and it was like he was charging around the parking lot, reading scripture. It's like, what are you doing? You should just be like a dude,
yeah.
Pathetic. Oh, I did not like that. I would like it better if he was just more of a, I'm just a guy, I liked the match. I thought the match was too long. I like Johnny as a dude I want to punch in the face. And I think Keith Lee is a good babyface to get behind.
All right, Bailey. You've got Christian who wants to marry Keith Lee. And then there's me, who... I kid. And then there's me, who I actually think we agree more than we disagree. My issues with Keith Lee are he's become thoroughly uninteresting over time. I think they're stripping away his personality. But
it's very samey.
Yeah, but also...
Because, jump back to the Survivor Series, where Keith Lee was the breakout star, and they didn't build on that.
Right.
They had him with Roman Reigns, where the entire arena was on their feet, hoping that Keith Lee would take Roman out. I think that was a tremendous high, and they did not capitalize off of it.
Watching him pounce Adam Cole into the audience was probably my favorite moment of
hell yes,
whatever that was. It's so great. I have that GIF saved on my phone. I show it. I send it to people periodically. Whenever when someone's having a bad day at work, I'm like, oh, is your day like this? And then I send them that GIF. But that's what I want to see from him. I want to see him pouncing people. I want to see him have more pep in his step. It's as if somebody told him, slow down, you're King Kong Monday. And it's like, well, no, he's not. But there's a place in between using your weight and imposing your will and being light on your feet that he had been occupying that he has since abandoned, Chris Bailey.
Well, listen, Keith Lee actually has injuries, so I think he was being actually protected in this match. And you could see it. Johnny Gargano was being very ginger with a couple of his moves. If you took away the attempts of power bombs and that stupid leg slap super kick out of this match, you would literally have nothing. It was. I mean, seriously. How many times did Johnny Gargano hit him in the head or try to super kick him or kick him in the back of the head and slap that leg? Holy Jesus. The guy must have bruises all over his leg there from slapping that leg. But does Gargano win anymore? Like, when was the last time Johnny Gargano, like, what's his win-loss record? It must be, like, crazy in the loss column because he never wins. And nobody brings it up. I mean, Morrow thinks that it's Johnny Gargano and he's a former champion, but that's probably the only match he's ever won. In my opinion. Oh my God, I don't know. This was not good. As for Keith Lee, I'm the middle of the road on this one. So I think he's got something there. I think he's placed in the wrong gimmick. I think that whole deal, Bask in My Glory, is just terrible. It doesn't suit him at all. Reading scriptures sucks. He's got personality somewhere. They haven't found it. I think there's more to see in Keith Lee, but he's injured right now, and I could have done without this match, or at least trimmed about 15 minutes off it.
All right, so the next one is our cinematic match of the evening. This was Adam Cole Bebe versus the Velveteen Dream, and if the Velveteen Dream lost, he can't challenge for the title while Cole is still champion. This was shot somewhere.
Now why is that? Why is Velveteen Dream not going to challenge for that belt anymore, Mark?
I don't know, Bailey. Why is that?
Well, it seems like the Dream has allegedly been chatting it up with some underage folks online, and yeah.
Okay, was that actually proven? Somebody else in another chat brought that up. That was like weeks ago, and I said, "Well, if
he's still on TV, hasn't been proven, I guess."
Okay, I was going to say so. My understanding of that was he didn't know they were underage, and
the Dream has no memory of that. I think the Dream has no memory of that.
Well, I'm not going to burn the guy until we know for sure he was purposely trolling for underage sex, and if that's the case, I mean, he deserves more than to not be on television. If that wasn't the case, everyone deserves to make a living. It's life is not fair. So
I would tend to believe that it's not true because he clearly, if he's on TV, then that tells me that there's not much fiber to the rumor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So they had this match. It was shot somewhere in the streets of Orlando, and Velveteen Dream was cosplaying as Negan from The Walking Dead. For the most part, it was just the two of them. They did a lot of fun spots with the cars. So my only real complaint about this was because they shot it at night, and I initially didn't realize that there was going to be a ring there. I thought they were just fighting amidst a circle of cars, which would have been pretty cool. But there was a ring there, and the ref was like, "Yeah, it's a hardcore match. I'm just here to count the pin." Like, okay, and you have to pin the guy in the ring. Great. So the rest of it was just kind of typical garbage match. I think the funniest part for me, the part that I laughed about was the Bugs Bunny routine, from what's his face, Dexter Loomis.
Ugh.
I know everybody hates Dexter Loomis, and I'm going to be the odd man out here. Dexter Loomis has like creepy charisma. He has, I don't know. There's something about him. I didn't watch him in Impact, so everyone's just like, "Oh, you sucked in Impact." I'm like, whatever. I don't care. He's in NXT now. I think he has a great look. And
Heidenreich done right.
Yeah, kinda. But I like that. I'm a sucker for big guys that can actually work, and I don't need everybody to be a spot monkey. I think being big and intimidating and knocking people out is fine, and looking like a serial killer helps. Dexter Loomis does all those things, so it totally makes sense that he's a good guy. I'm now shrugging my shoulders. I don't understand. But he is. They've decided that the next place they're going is Dexter Loomis versus the Undisputed Era. And he looks like he could tear Cole in half and suck the marrow out of his bones. So I'm fine with this. They did that awful Canadian destroyer onto the chairs, which seems to have killed the Velveteen Dream. I made my kids and my wife watch this match. And we were hooting and hollering and having a grand old time. I mean, not every match is going to be Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit, WrestleMania 17. Some are just going to be nonsense and fun and cartoonish. And I think in the pandemic era, as this is being known, you need to have at least one of these per card that's just Looney Tunes silly. And this, I think, achieved Looney Tunes silly without becoming the Stadium Stampede or Money in the Bank. You know, like, it was silly without being cartoonish, if you ask me. So it hit the right level of stupidity for this type of match. What'd you think, Bailey?
Yeah, you know what? This when I compare it to the other stunt matches that we've seen, you know, in the past several months or whatever, this one ranks probably somewhere in the middle because it wasn't cartoonish, like you said. They played it off mostly serious, with the exception of I thought this was in almost like a set. It looked like when they were walking around and going into buildings, and you broke out the fire extinguisher and pulled out all these stupid tricks. You know, it appeared to be like a set off of Universal Studios or something, some sort of cowboy type setup, but. You know, to me it was fine. I love the Loomis thing. I thought that they were being a little bit, you know, they could have done more with the car. You know, he had a baseball bat. They couldn't beat out windows. The only window they broke was when Adam Cole did flat back on the front windshields. Really bad. But you had a baseball bat. You could have smashed out all the lights. You know, did a few more things. I think they underreached. Although the Panama Sunrise into the chairs at the end was a perfect death spot for the Velveteen Dream. So I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was fine.
That was the one complaint that I had, was because of the car lighting, a lot of the shots looked distorted. Like, the camera work in this isn't as good as it could have been because you had...
Oh, no.
This was unfortunately poorly lit. And I don't think I thought they thought it would look cool, but it does not... It comes across distorted on camera, and I think, like, if they're going to do, you know, nighttime shoots where people are wrestling outside... They have to light this stuff better, not with fucking car lights, though. Like, you know,
did Rob Feinstein film this with his fan cam and try to sell it on VHS? Is that what happened here?
Yeah, ground level headlights don't light a scene very well. Go ahead, Chris Sheehan.
I thought this was pretty serviceable. I felt kind of bad the first time when they missed the Panama Sunrise. I don't think Morrow realized it, because he called it like he hit the Panama Sunrise, where like what's his face Cole like jumped and he wound up in the Dream Valley Driver or something, and Morrow called it like he'd hit the sunrise. It's like, and nobody was correcting him or anything. It's like, oh damn, and it just kept going.
Well, the lighting was so off you couldn't really see.
Well, the lighting was off, but I mean this was filmed like 3 or 4 days before the show. I mean they could have edited all this stuff out. And speaking of editing, they did edit it to the point where like we missed shots. Like all of a sudden we'd have like Adam punching Velveteen, and then it would cut to the next bit where like Adam's on the ground and Velveteen is like standing over him. It's like, where did that happen? I don't know where
like
that happened.
Video exclusive edition. Maybe they were going like
exactly.
Really,
they're going real old school, yeah. And but I thought. Like you guys said, I think they left a lot on the table here. They had a huge set. They had all these cars. Velveteen smacked a car like 18 times with a baseball bat and managed to break 0 windows. It just feels like they left a lot on the table here. I loved the giant pervert under the ring. I thought that was funny.
They were trying to deflect from Velveteen Dream. See, they were doing deflection there.
There you go. I thought the Uber scene was really lame. I thought that was trying a little bit too hard. I can't think of a single person who laughed at that, unless either of you guys did when the Uber came. Or did I imagine that? Was it?
No,
I dream that?
No,
I also giggled, but I'm an idiot, so.
It reminds me of like these Street Profits and Viking Raider things they have on Raw. It's like, is there a single person laughing at any of this?
God, how dare you? Now that I don't laugh at. That is, I didn't even watch Raw last night. I'm in the middle of a rewatch of The Wire, which is what I'd rather be doing than watching Raw.
I'm currently watching a patch of paint dry, which is a little bit more entertaining than Raw. So it's all good. But I did like the final spot of this match. It was because I mean you had to do something pretty major. I did dig Morrow calling out the ECW flashback when the UE were tossing all the chairs in the ring, because I mean that's one of those iconic ECW shots that was even in the opening for quite a while. decent enough match. I think Velveteen has lost a step, if he ever had the step to begin with, in both character and ability. I feel like since he's come back from injury, his character is not quite what it was before he left, and his ability in the ring is almost shot. I remember worrying, like before he got injured, I remember worrying about how they were going to ruin his character when they called him up to the main roster, and now it's just like, yeah, well, he is what he is. Take him.
It's almost too late. It's literally almost too late.
Yeah, that he was a flash in the pan, and I think the fire's just about out.
Yeah, I think I was right there with you guys. I was like, oh, please don't notice Matt Riddle or Velveteen Dream. Here's what I'll tell you. There was a news article saying that SmackDown's looking for writers. I don't think wrestling needs more writers. They need directors of photography. Like they you were talking about like all the edits and missed shots, whatever. They need people who are used to like filming action. Like get the guys who worked on Avengers Endgame. Because that's all readable action. For as much as what was going on there, I mean, that was almost a feat of cinematic photography in and of itself. The fact that, I mean, I've watched the final battle in Endgame a number of times, but even the first time I saw it, as much stimuli is floating across the screen and rapid fire. Did you guys ever get lost watching that? Like, did you ever feel like you didn't know what was going on? Because I was able to follow it. Right?
Never saw it.
I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Yeah, there was so much going on, especially in that last scene. I mean, I was there with my kids trying to occupy them and direct traffic and tell them who was who and, what was happening and what was about to come. And, everybody all of a sudden returned at once and you're like, holy shit.
But it's not like Transformers where you have no fucking clue what's happening. Everything's the same color. That's what I'm saying. Like, readability of an action scene is paramount when filming them. And I think that's what WWE needs right now. In the pandemic era with cinematic matches, if they're going to do this, get an expert in photography who knows how to film an action scene. Because filming live event, wrestling or boxing or combat sports or whatever, and filming a cinematic action sequence, not the same thing.
No, it felt like a series of like blended clips put together. That's what it looked like. There was no flow.
Yeah, they needed to. Honestly, it needed to be tighter and shorter and set to cherry pie.
Bingo.
All right. Next, we have Mark Marrow and Sable. I mean, Karrion Kross and Scarlett.
Yes, finally someone said it.
Versus Tommaso Ciampa, who won by choke, 6 minutes 13 seconds. I would imagine, like, there was a conversation with Ciampa at some point where they were like, look, NXT was not meant to be a forever thing. He was like, yeah, but I don't want to go to the main roster. You're not listening, Tommaso. You have to go to the main roster at some point. I'm not saying, look, we're not saying you have to be on every house show, but everyone goes to the main roster. You can't live on NXT I don't want to go. Tommaso, you're going to get beat by every single person on this roster if you stay at NXT. Meh, at least my house will be paid. Fine.
Think about it, though, Mark. This generation of NXT, they waited too long on almost all of them. I mean, I think Gargano was he's permanently damaged. You got Ciampa, who's been there way too long. Velveteen Dream means nothing. I mean, Adam Cole, I'm scared to death to see Adam Cole show up on SmackDown one week. It just terrifies me, but I don't know, man. They waited too long on all of these guys, and I think they've done some serious damage by doing so.
I think the Undisputed Era as a whole can be saved. Velveteen Dream needs to just be off camera until crowds can come back. He only works with crowds.
Bingo.
My point with Tommaso Ciampa is I think they, and I was trying to do a bit with it, not every bit's a winner, but I think they really told him, like, if you stay, you're putting other people over. He was like, I don't fucking care. I don't want to go on the road. I want to work in Orlando, and that's it. Or the Coconut Loop. They were like, fine. First order of business, put over Killer Kross. And they did, and he squashed him. Like, he got a little bit of offense in, but not, I mean, this wasn't like, Barry Horowitz on Superstars back in 1987. But still, Karrion Kross beat that ass. This was a hard-hitting, smash 'em up. You know, Tommaso Ciampa got made to look like a bitch, and Karrion Kross looks like a killer. And that outfit on Scarlett Bordeaux.
Oh, boy. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I'm taking my socks off as we speak.
Yes, sir. Christian, your thoughts on this squash match between Karrion Kross and Tommaso Ciampa?
I was very surprised it was this decisive. I was expecting this to be a more back and forth match, but I'm glad it wasn't, because so often when we debut a monster, they have competitive matches for some reason, and I think that takes a lot of the steam out of their introduction. I've never seen Karrion Kross before his NXT run, and when I first saw him, I thought that Big Cass shaved his head. They have very, very similar facial features and facial charisma. I was like, wow, they brought Cass back, but no, it's not Big Cass. It's something far better than Big Cass. I like his intensity. I think his face is horrible. I think they should put a mask on him, but I do like the whole presentation with him and Scarlett. I think when she lip syncs, that is like instant cringe. Like I want,
absolutely.
I don't want my wife to walk past the TV at that point and be like, "What the hell are you watching?" That really, like, total cringe city. Like, I can feel the hair on the back of my neck standing up, like, ugh. But I thought the match was quick and what it needed to be. If this is what they're gonna do, if they're building Cross up to like be the next big heel brand, that's the way to do it. Yeah, I thought it was really well done for what they were potentially trying to do.
I've seen Killer Cross on some Bloodsport shows, and I've seen him in different indie shows. He's like not. He's one of these guys where his gimmick is he's like an all-around combat sports guy. So I like his presentation. I think he's got like great intensity. I guess they're pushing him right now as a heel, so he's another one who I guess will be challenging Keith Lee probably like around Survivor Series, if not later, or maybe WrestleMania time next year. And I think those will be good matches. I think Karrion Kross can carry a hump like Keith Lee and some of these other guys. I like the idea of him squashing Tommaso Ciampa, but I think at least for the next couple of months until he gets into a meaningful feud, I think he needs to keep squashing guys. Mm-hmm. Like he needs to look like a big threat. So also, this being a 2-hour show, and we had some matches that were in the 10 to 20 minute range already, I am glad that they cut this one short. Like, I don't need to see this is what me and Bailey talk about with AEW, where like every match is 20 minutes long. Like, no, some of them can just be 5-minute squashes. Please. Come on. So this was a nice change.
How many super kicks can you fit into a 20-minute match? Like 6,000?
You fucking ask the young
Oh.
Ugh. Talk about face punch in there. Ugh.
Which brings us
be good, Sheehan. Be good.
Which brings us to our main event. We have the Joshi Judas, the Genius of the Sky, Io Shirai, versus Lady Big Dog, Charlotte Flair, and Rhea Ripley. And I'll tell you...
the poor lost Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is lost in said shuffle.
My daughter had the funniest line of this. My daughter, a big fan of Bayley and Sasha Banks, and she likes Shotzi Blackheart because she likes her, quote, wild style. My daughter has very concerted opinions on the lady wrestlers. And I asked her, I'm like, what's your impression of this match? She was like, I don't give a shit who wins as long as Charlotte Flair loses. I was like, oof.
Well, that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Yes, I believe that was the consensus on Twitter. And they're like, so you don't care if Rhea Ripley or Io Shirai wins? She's like, nope. As long as Charlotte Flair loses. She always wins. She went on like this really funny tear about like, Charlotte Flair, why do you have to win all the time? What the hell, man? I'm like, all right, from the mouth of a 9-year-old. I was surprised this was the main event, but then again, Charlotte, so whatever. Also, empty arena. I guess it doesn't really matter. Who you put in the main event. So, I was just shocked it wasn't Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream, but whatever. Either way, I thought these two... Io Shirai is great. Io Shirai could run a clinic for some of these clunky-ass girls, teach them how to be a little smoother, a little tighter, a little more snug, as Steve Austin would say. Charlotte Flair, she's fine. I don't think she... I think most of her matches go off without a hitch. She's not a huge fuck-up. Rhea Ripley, generally, Rhea Ripley still needs some work. She needs some polish. But she's not a giant fuck-up either. So you had two women in there who are technically very good, and Rhea Ripley, who just needs to smooth out some of the rough edges. And I think they put on a really good triple threat here, and I was happy to see Io Shirai finally get the victory. We'll see where that takes Io Shirai going forward. We'll see if Charlotte... They're talking about Charlotte Flair wrestling for men's titles, to which I want to say, no, 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 no. And that's not sexist. Can we just not do it? Please? Can we not make wrestling more ridiculous?
TNA or Impact. Yeah.
I didn't like it then either.
No, sir.
Go rescue fucking Tessa Blanchard from whatever Mexican compound she's currently trapped in. And just bring her in and make her wrestle Charlotte for 6 months if you have to. Throw retard money at Tessa Blanchard. Just stop with the men's titles already. Enough already.
Well, this was the first match on the card that actually used the in your house set. I love that portion of it. Seeing Charlotte Flair throw Shirai through the window was amazing. Then you got to see Ripley use the planters, throwing dirt at Charlotte. That was a bit of fun. I enjoyed that. Even the ending, how it ended, where they had the figure four moonsault, and then you get Shirai with the sneaky win. It was cool.
Yeah,
I was shocked, to be quite honest with you. I was absolutely blown away that Shirai won the NXT Championship. So good on her. She's crazy.
That's my only worry about this. We've already got one yammering, crazy Japanese woman. I'm afraid Io Shirai's going to show up on the main roster, and then you're going to have two yammering, crazy Japanese women. Is this all we do with Japanese women now? Just have them yell in, nonsense into the camera?
That's true.
Wait, what's my gimmick? Just yell random Japanese horse shit. Okay, but you've got someone doing that. It's all Americans know about the Japanese people. Robots, hentai, nonsense. Alrighty.
What's hentai? Don't answer that, please.
I'm not gonna. Christian, your thoughts here, and then we'll start to close out.
Sure. It's funny how last week on Raw, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, Nia Jax did a promo where she was making fun of the Japanese and did a little impression of the Japanese people, basically mimicking an Asuka promo in a very stereotypical sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody called her out on it, but I thought that was interesting. Because
a
couple weeks before. Oh yeah, well it happened on Raw, but nobody said anything. But I think Shirai is probably a babyface now, right? She's almost got to be.
Yeah,
right?
She's turned the corner.
And it's one thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that they have the crowd the way it is. The crowd is all people under contract or under some sort of deal, and it really shows the way that they're trying to manipulate how we're receiving some of these characters here, because they were solidly behind Shirai throughout the match, who was up to this point a heel. So it's like they actually turned her by having the crowd cheer for her. Because halfway through the match, I was just like, wow, she's the babyface here. She's who we want to win. Simply because the crowd was cheering for her. Every time she got a bit of offense, they popped. And it was like, wow, they're really manipulating the way we're receiving these characters. Also shows that the way the crowd was produced was just so forced. I mean, they like the way they were chanting it at Charlotte, and she had a perfect comeback for every single chant. It was just like, wow, this is it takes you back to those Dixie Carter things where she's like, no, the crowd, they're cast members, they're part of the show. It's like, no, they really shouldn't be. They really shouldn't be able to interact with the talent in such a way where the talent is actually getting one-ups on them. I didn't like that so much. To the match, Rhea is, like Bailey said, she's lost. She was lucky, the same way Keith Lee was back during the Survivor Series weekend, of just being in the right place at the right time against the right people, where we saw them as something bigger than what they actually are. I don't think she's all that great. I think she's pretty rough. Shirai, I don't think I've ever seen someone smoother in the ring. The way she's able to like finesse her body in midair. Like, she was doing these cross bodies between the ropes, good. off the house, and she managed to contort her body in a way where she perfectly impacted the people she was landing on. And it looked safe, it looked snug, it looked perfect. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone who was able to do it quite as well as Io. I was super happy to see her win. The rumor going into the weekend was that she and Velveteen are headed to the main roster. So everyone's like, "Oh well, I guess that tells us what happens with the two title matches on the show." But they zigged instead of zagged, and Io got the win, and I was very, very happy to see it. I loved the celebration at the end too with the streamers. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was very.
I thought
very Japanese.
Mauro Ranallo was going to need a towel.
I'm sure he did, actually.
They should have cut tomorrow, and he's just sitting there in underwear, and and Beth Phoenix is filling out a human resources report.
Wiping her face.
His glasses are tilted on his face.
All right. Well, overall, let's give our final grades here. So I liked 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 6. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a solid B. I mean, just because I hated Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano, I can't say it was like a poorly put together match. It just did nothing for me. Clearly, it did more for you guys. Again, same thing with Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Just because they're just two dudes doesn't mean their matches were bad. They did not appeal to me in particular. But like I say in the Metal Hammer of Doom, just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it's not good. So I would say the show was entertaining. I thought they took lemons and made lemonade. You know, the situation that we're in now. I thought they made an effective use of the in-your-house gimmick. And there was a lot of fun here. And no, it was nothing this isn't the best TakeOver I've ever seen. This is by far not the worst TakeOver I've ever seen. So I would say it's a solid B. What are your thoughts there, Mr. Bailey?
Yeah, man. Love the in-your-house gimmick. So overall, presentation-wise, the look of the show was great despite not having any audience. Nobody brought up Code Orange in the beginning. I thought they did a great job introing the show. They were even behind the plexiglass after, cheering on the wrestlers, which was kind of cool. 3 matches I did not care for. I wasn't really a fan of the Velveteen Dream match. I loved Karrion Kross. I loved that in particular match, 6 minutes. The opener was cool with the ladies, and the main event, man, that was a solid main event as well. So I'm going to agree with you, man. I've probably got it at a B minus, but solid show, man. No real complaints. A nice throwback, lots of fun little gimmicks they had in this one. So presentation wise, I think they took away a win on this one.
All right, take me home, Sheehan.
I think the strength of this show is primarily that it broke format with what TakeOver had been for like the past year. It feels like for the past several TakeOvers we've had the same matches over and over and over again. And they were all Gargano and Ciampa, or Gargano and Cole, or Ciampa and Cole. And they were all like 45-minute epics where we had 6,000 kickouts, near falls, and this broke away from that. This, which I think is probably its greatest strength. The in-your-house trappings just were like, sprinkles on the sundae here to make it seem that much more different from what's come before it. I wouldn't say this is the greatest one ever, but I think it's the best one they've had in quite a while, just because they dared to be a little bit different. They're bringing up new people with Cross. They had their cinematic match, which wasn't the best, but it was different. I heard that the women haven't main evented a TakeOver since like 2015, which Hey, that is what it is. But if Charlotte's on the card, they're gonna pump it up as far as they can because she is what everyone complains about Roman Reigns being. She actually is that. But it was a really good show. I enjoyed it. I can't say that I didn't like any of it. The Gargano Lee match did go too long, but other than that, I don't have any complaints. I love the callbacks. I love Pettengill being there. I'd love for them to bring him back in some sort of a full-time capacity. I think he'd be a lot of fun around this time.
Yeah, him and
I agree, just as the oblivious host.
Oh, yeah.
him and his green screen.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs a mullet again. All right.
Of course.
Yes,
Bring back Stephanie Y in, too.
All right. So that's our coverage of NXT TakeOver in Yo House. A week from tonight, the gang will be back together again, and we'll review Backlash.
The greatest wrestling match ever.
I'm gonna need to be fucking during that.
What are they doing? Like, that is a bold statement right there, and it's not true.
No, it's gonna be fucking terrible. What it's gonna be, but whatever.
Have some faith. Have some faith. I think this is going to be I heard this match in particular is going to be held at the Tokyo Dome. So there we go.
Seven
It's
stars.
going to be
78.
78 stars. 78 stars.
You
Meltzer is going to need Morrow's towel. It's going to be great.
You cheeky bastard. All right.
I'll even lend my socks.
All right. So in the meantime, we're supposed to do a comic strip for the last days of American Crime. Alexis had a personal issue this week, so we may or we may not get to it. Who knows? But we will also be concluding our look at Fuller House Season 5, Part 2, this Thursday. Last week, myself and Alexis Anna reviewed Catwoman When in Rome. Myself and Winfrey reviewed Devilman Crybaby. Jesse Starcher was back to review Ailstorm, Curse of the Crystal Coconut. And myself and Pat Mullen looked at one of the greats in boxing, Hall of Famer, just a great person, great boxer, a guy who did not get his due because of the shitbag that was Muhammad Ali. Ladies and gentlemen, Smokin' Joe Frazier, Chapter 8 is up in the archives. Go ahead and check that out. Next week, we'll be doing a Damn You Hollywood for the Disney Plus exclusive Artemis Fowl. The aforementioned Backlash show. Jesse and I will be back to review Termion Catalot. And that's it. I'll be guesting on one of Chris Sheehan's shows. He'll tell you all about it.
Oh, yes, I will do that right now. We took the month off from Claremont to Claremont for June, so episode 3 of that will be in July, and Mr. Mark Radulich will be there to discuss the Punisher, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Hearts of Darkness, prestige format trade paperback thing from, I think it was Howard Mackey who wrote that, so apologies in advance to Mark. Getting back into the swing of things at the Chris and Reggie channel. We're back to doing Moratory Mondays every single Monday. We've entered, me and Mr. Bailey have entered the dark age of that title, and maybe he'll tell you a little bit more about that when he's talking. Still blogging every day at chrisisoninfiniteearths.com, though I don't think there's a single person who gives a rat's ass about that. Right now I'm doing the Byrne Mackey Spider-Man reboot, which has been quite an education going back and revisiting some 22, 23 years after the fact. This was the first time they renumbered Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, in nearly 40 years. So you'd think that would be a monumental occasion. You find out, no, it was absolutely not. So that's there at the blog if anyone cares. Nobody does, but it's there anyway. So check it out if you want.
All right, Mr. Bailey, do your plugs and take me home, baby doll.
Oh, man, I would wipe your ass with that Mackie Byrne Spider-Man crap, especially issue number 1. Garbage, hot garbage. Anyway, we got hot garbage. You can find me over on the Twitter at Charlton_Hero. We got some Super Blog team up coming up on June 24th where we're dealing with expanded universes. So look for that. You'll also find me over on Moratory Mondays where we're discussing Strikeforce Moratory, The Dark Era, where you will not find a single worse comic book on the shelf than what issue 21 provided us. So if you want a good laugh and want to see some two poor schlems trying to find positive in a dark pile of feces, well, you could check out that episode that myself and Chris just put out. Outside of that, that's Chris Bailey, Canadian office represented, Alpha Flight sucks, and could you please find an actor to play Michelle Tanner and not disappoint me while in the middle of my sobbing story watching the end of Fuller House?
She's not coming.
Why is she not coming, Mark?
That was a really funny line. Just like if she hasn't showed up by now, she's not coming. All right. You'll hear more about Fuller House this Thursday. In the meantime, I want to thank the Podsmen for riding with me again. This has been TV Party Tonight. Be well, be safe, and behave.